Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, Prince Harry looks set to meet his father, King Charles, next week in London as the Duke of Sussex jets in to attend the Invictus Games' 10th anniversary.
Well, King Charles, of course, recently cleared to resume his public duties following his cancer treatment.
Well, joining us now is former Royal Correspondent Michael Cole. Really good to see you this morning, Michael. What do you make of this news?
Good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Steve. Well, just as I predicted on this very channel, the King will almost certainly see his younger son when he's in London next week. The King has made it clear from the outset that his door is always open to his younger son, who he tends to call my darling boy. And on Wednesday, the King will be at a garden party at Buckingham Palace. And Prince Harry is here principally for a Thanksgiving service to celebrate the 10th anniversary of his brilliant innovation, the Invictus Games. That will be at St Paul's Cathedral. So usually they're 5,000 miles apart. Now they'll only be 2 miles apart. And I'm quite sure that they will get together. And at that, there we see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at Whistler in Canada when they were announcing the foundation of Winter Games for the Invictus for the wounded and damaged ex-servicemen and women from 22 different nations. A brilliant initiative and the sort of thing that, of course, he was so good at and should be doing more of. That, of course, was all pre-Meghan, the foundation of the Invictus Games. One thing I think, Ellie and Stephen, we can say that won't happen is that Prince Harry will not be meeting with his older brother William. That's going to take a lot of reconciliation, and Prince Harry is going to have to mend a few fences. I would say enough fences to encircle the whole 20,000 acres of the Sandringham Estate. A lot of humble pie has got to be eaten too. I should think Meghan in her kitchen in Montecito will have to bake up a humble pie about as tall as a Californian redwood and then eat it. It's going to be a long, long road before the two brothers are on speaking terms, let alone friends again. But wasn't it great to see the King looking so well yesterday at the Royal Windsor Horse Show? He didn't used to go in the Queen's time. It was very much her thing. The show was established during the Second World War by Guards officers who were convalescing from war wounds at Windsor, and they started it mainly to amuse Princess Elizabeth, as she then was, and her sister, Princess Margaret. And they took part in that show, driving a pony and trap and so on. And over the years it grew. I must just tell you a little anecdote, which I've never told before, which shows how far we've come. One time I had to attend the show almost every year. And one year I was invited with my wife to a marquee where the Queen was giving a reception after the show. And we'd only just stepped inside the marquee when a woman came in and she said, "Can I stand here? Would it be all right if I stood with you? Are you okay? Can I stand here?" And she was utterly shaking. And it was Mrs. Parker Bowles. And it was the first time ever she'd been in a room or a space where the Queen was. And she said, "Will she come over here? Will she come over to see us?" And I said, "I'm not going over there. And if you stay here, I'm sure she won't come over here." And that was the very first time. It was the introduction of Mrs. Parker Bowles into the royal presence. And that was 11 years before Prince Charles, as he then was, married Mrs. Parker Bowles at Windsor in 2005. So that shows how far we've come. Now she's very much the help and stay and very much a great comfort to her husband, who looked so happy yesterday, and it was great to see.
That it was. And Michael, whilst we've got you, just wanted to ask you about the King's visit to the Cancer Centre. I believe it was on Tuesday. We were quite struck, really, by his warmth towards the patients there and holding their hands, and just a real sign of quite how human he is.
I think it was terrific. I think the pictures were extremely moving. I mean, those two there have got something in common. And another thing which I think is important, the King has his treatment alone, of course, with the best specialists. Not quite sure where it happens, at a hospital somewhere or in the consulting room. These guys all have their treatment together, and they have a community, and they bake cakes for each other, and they talk to each other. And suddenly the king, and I think you can see it going through his mind there, is realizing that this is what's happening all the time. And they're suffering in exactly the same way as he is, because it's a very traumatic thing, having this treatment as it's ongoing. And as you say, Ellie, it was really, really wonderful pictures. And he's done a terrific amount by being candid about his condition. It's made people check themselves. It's made people contribute to charities. It's made people think about this very much more. You know, when I was a kid, people didn't dare to say the word cancer. It was like a taboo in case you actually got it yourself. And there we see him with the Queen, who's also taking a very brilliant part in all of this. So, you know, from what could be a catastrophe, good comes, and people with great courage and bravery and commitment face up to it. And apparently, I'm told 1 in 3 of us at some stage in our lives will encounter cancer. It's a terrible statistic. But the King is showing really what he's doing is showing leadership. And that's what only he can do. There's only one head of state, and we're lucky enough to have him, King Charles III.
Yes, no, quite agree. Quite agree, Michael. In fact, I think that figure's 1 in 2 now, actually.
Is it really?
It's 50% of us, yeah.
Oh, it's shocking.
Which is, it is appalling, isn't it? Michael, really good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.